Good evening and welcome to the March 27th, 2018 City Council Finance Committee meeting. Committee members present, Councilors President Kuchmarek, Councilor Di Natale, Councilor Walsh, Zarella, and Boschman. Also present this evening, Councilors Caddy, Clark, Squalia, Fleming, and Donnelly. We will take two items out of order at the request of the auditor on behalf of the rec director, Mr. LaRose. The last two items, 5818 and 5918, we'll start with. 5818 is an order that the City of Fitchburg approves the expenditure of funds from the Stanton Foundation grant in the approximate amount of $201,015 for the purpose of said grant, which is to construct a municipal dog park at Coolidge Park. And 5918, an order that the City of Fitchburg approves the expenditure of funds from the Friends of Fitchburg Dogs gift in the approximate amount of $22,333 for the purpose of said gift, which is to construct a municipal dog park at Coolidge Park. Mr. LaRose.
Thank you. So we came to you almost a year ago now when we received the design grant to design this project. And we have gone through and we've designed a dog park that is a little less than an acre, that is set upon the former location of the swimming hole at Coolidge Park. The design follows all the desires and regulations from the Stanton Foundation, which has experience building upwards of 15 dog parks throughout the state and is in the process of building many others. They also will be providing us with guidance for rules, regulations, and different types of issues that might come up throughout the next couple of years. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about the dog park.
Councilor Walsh.
I actually have two questions. One concerns maintenance of the dog park. As a dog owner, believe me, I'm thrilled with this. So wearing my dog owner hat, I'm fine. Wearing my city council hat and worrying about cost of picking up what dogs do is a concern. My other question is I'm wearing sort of my city council hat and my attorney hat, which is liability. If a dog should, say, attack another dog or bite a person, who is responsible for that? And is there an insurance policy that would cover it?
Yes. So to take the first one, we have a letter with an agreement within it that will be expanded into an MOU with the Friends of Fitchburg Dogs, which is a nonprofit that's been founded to do regular maintenance along the level of picking up dog poop, helping remove trash. The regular maintenance in the traditional sense, lawn mowing and care in that regard, would be continue to be maintained by the DPW, who are currently mowing that field right now.
Okay.
For the liability, my understanding, not being a lawyer and having had discussions with the city solicitor over a year ago, was that the city will implement rules for this site, and that the provision of the park would fall under the same general laws that go for the provision of the use of any park. So if the incident is caused by something we could have prevented, then it would be our liability. Otherwise, the general laws that provide for if someone is injured on a playground would cover this type of situation as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Boschman.
Did I hear you right that the Friends of the Dog Parks are going to pick up the waste?
Well, the general rules would be that anyone who has a dog is supposed to pick up the waste on their own, and we will attempt to enforce that. But any waste that is missed in some way, the Friends will be having regular visits scheduled that would help with the picking up of any waste that was left behind.
So are they going to pick it up in the ball fields? That's my question.
Well,
ball fields and where people walk.
No. However, those locations already do have dog waste on them, and the creation of this park is an attempt to steer this waste away from those sites and into a place where it's designated it should be.
Forget it. Go ahead.
Do you still
Well,
want?
the only reason why I asked you that, you say you're trying to, like Ms. Walsh, the Council Walsh says, I have a dog too, and I know my dog. My dog thinks she's the queen, and it's going to go after all the other dogs, so I won't bring my dog down there. And there are going to be other people that are not, they're going to go down there, they're going to see what kind of dogs are in there, and then they're going to start walking around the park. And what I'm afraid of is for the walkers or the kids stepping in the number two because nobody picks it up, because we get the same problem that calls all Coolidge Park up there, but they don't pick it up.
Well, that
It's
is
great that we have rules, and you don't have the manpower to enforce the rules.
That is a problem that exists now. We already have people walking dogs on the walking path. We have people loose leashing their dogs on ball fields across the entire city. Our goal is to provide a responsible place for responsible dog owners to choose to go, rather than using facilities that are meant for the enjoyment of our youth and our residents. And our goal would be to steer people towards this and to also help teach them how to be responsible dog owners, so that we're not picking up waste on ball fields before kids can go out and play their softball game.
So if the DPW goes down to the ball field to cut the grass and they see you don't want your dog in the kennel that we're making, the playground for the dog, and he's in the ballpark, are you gonna kick him out?
We do already.
You would do it, or would the DPW do it?
Any responsible city employee who was there has the authority to say there's a sign, there's a no dog site. We have signs on all the ball fields that say this is a no dog site, and ask that person to leave. And if they choose not to, we would contact the police department or animal control to formally remove them.
All right. Okay, thank you, sir.
President Kuchmarek?
I received numerous calls from residents kind of echoing the same questions and concerns that Councilor Walsh expressed earlier regarding both sanitation as well as liability and public safety, which you've addressed both. So while I understand those concerns of certain constituents throughout the city, ultimately I think this is a net benefit and gain not only for Coolidge Park but also for the city. So this will have my support. Thank you. Motion to approve 058 and 059-19. 18.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 5818 and 5918. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. Next, we'll move to 5418, top of the agenda. Order that there being hereby is appropriated the sum of $22,331, same to be charged against available funds and credited to law other expenses, damages to persons and property for the purpose of paying the deductible incurred in connection to the fire damage to the Crocker Field concession stand. Mr. Terigny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, councilors. My name is AJ Terigny, Chief of Staff to Mayor Dinatale. I'm here this evening for Superintendent Ravenel and our City Solicitor Pusateri in reference to Order Number 54-18. I come bearing with good news. Through the efforts of the school department, the funds were raised from various donors to cover the cost of the deductible to fix the concession stand, which we also were able to complete before the beginning of this past football season. So I know the band who uses the concession stand and raises funds through the concession stand were very happy, and the school department's also very happy. And I'd like to thank our Board of Health and also our building department for helping expedite that process so that the concession stand was available.
Are you asking for a leave to withdraw
Yes,
on
sir.
this?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That would be excellent.
Questions?
Motion to give leave to withdraw on 54-18.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to give leave to withdraw on 5418. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is given leave to withdraw.
Thank you, councilors.
Next, we'll go to 5518, and we'll include 5618. 5518 is in order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $132,283 to be charged against available funds and credited to accounts as follows: Fire Personal Services, $520. DPW Highway General Personal Services, $81,391. DPW Snow and Ice Personal Services, $15,015. DPW Cemetery Personal Services, $18,422. And DPW Parks Personal Services, $14,935. Also 5618, in order that there be and hereby is transferred from within the following personal services accounts the sum of $81,394 to be credited to respective fiscal year 2018 personal services accounts: Water Enterprise Fund, $64,488. Wastewater Enterprise Fund, $16,906. We have with us the Human Resources Director, Susan Davis, and DPW Commissioner Lenny Laxo.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mayor Dinatale, and councilors. We're here before you tonight with the rest of the negotiating team, which is John DeLine, Jeff Morosky, and Solicitor Pusateri, to present the MOA, or the Memorandum of Agreement, between the city and Local 39, which represents the employees of the Department of Public Works. If approved by this body and the council as a whole, the MOA will become the contract between these groups from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2020. With the guidance and support of the mayor, the negotiation team, and the executive board of Local 39 reached quite a comprehensive and progressive contract package, which is outlined in the MOU before you. This agreement, I have to say, is the culmination of many meetings and hours of negotiation. While a long and arduous process, the results reflect some of our mutual goals, which we hope to attain with this, that being attracting new and retaining current employees, elevating the compensation of current employees to a more equitable wage for their hard work, their pride and dedication to the city and to the DPW, and to provide employees with some growth opportunities, all while maintaining sensible budgetary responsibility. In addition to everything that we were able to accomplish, we also updated and revised and brought some consistency to items such as workers' compensation, the family medical leave, as well as the military and parental act leaves. Some of the managerial rights, which were extensive that we gained in this, were random drug testing for employees in this group, those employees that are not subject to the Department of Transportation or DOT regulations. We created a written DOT policy, which employees will need to acknowledge and sign. Employees hired after the execution date of the contract will not be eligible for longevity. Employees will be required to sign a training fee agreement, which will require reimbursement of all training costs if that employee leaves the city's employ within 2 years. We established a cell phone policy as well as a citywide telephone usage policy, which all the members are going to be required to sign. And we gained the right to install GPS in DPW vehicles. So again, we're really pleased with this contract, and Commissioner Laxo is going to further discuss some specifics in the agreement.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, first I'd just like to thank the Local 39 negotiating team and members. It was, the negotiating sessions were always very cordial and productive, and most importantly, they're a really great group to work with. They're the unsung heroes in the city. Now that winter's coming to a close, hopefully they can get some rest and some sleep for a change. Yeah, what we've been realizing is that we've had a serious problem in DPW over the past few years because our wage rates are no longer competitive with surrounding DPWs nor with the private sector. And what happened was over the past 12 years, during tough times for the city, Local 39 was very cooperative, and they accepted 0% cost of living increases for many of those years, more so than any other bargaining unit in the city, so they've fallen behind. So this was very helpful to the city in its time of need, but now we're finding it's difficult to retain and hire qualified workers. In recent years, we've had 15 people either leave Local 39 or decline job offers from us due to the low pay scale. And in fact, the lowest step for our light motor equipment operator only makes $2 more an hour than the lifeguards at our city pool in the summer. And it's very important that we retain our qualified employees as they possess invaluable knowledge about the city's infrastructure that's really not replaceable. Plus, we have many retirements approaching, and we need to attract good workers to take their place. In fact, I was just reading this afternoon that this is a nationwide problem in water, and there's a bill in Congress to boost the water workforce throughout the country because of all the retirements that are coming up throughout the country, and the lack of qualified workers to replace them. And retaining and attracting work employees is difficult when our pay scale is 15 to 40% less than bordering towns. We can't make up the difference overnight, but we've attempted to provide a reasonable increase in our wage rates in this agreement. This was done partly by revamping our wage matrix. The matrix has been streamlined by removing some obsolete positions. We've grouped positions into fewer pay grades. We've deleted the lower pay steps at the bottom of the scale, and we've added new steps to benefit veteran workers at the top of the scale. Also, we've created 5 general foreman positions to create more opportunity for advancement and personal growth. so that you just don't stall out once you reach the foreman position. And as Susan mentioned earlier, the agreement covers much more than wages, so we're pleased to have a number of new provisions that will assist in management of the department, particularly in professional standards and safety. So the safety committee will be revamped. This turned out to be good timing because the governor just signed a new law making OSHA standards apply to municipal employees as of next February 1st. So it'll be important for the committee to get involved in this and hit the ground running. And as you heard, we have the right to install GPS in DPW vehicles. We've been tracking our private snowplows for several years now, and we found that it really helps us efficiently manage the fleet and plan our routes. It also helps resolve complaints, as we can verify whether one of our vehicles has been in a certain location at a certain time, and whether a street has been plowed, and so on. Also, all employees covered by the agreement will now be subject to random drug and alcohol testing. Previously, only those holding commercial driver's license had to be tested. And we have the cell phone policy that Susan mentioned, because they do use their cell phones frequently during the day, and we can cover issues such as personal calls on the job, texting while driving, and operating equipment. So that's it, unless there are any questions.
On page 6, you discuss the wage increases. So you're eliminating the first 2 steps, and step 3 now becomes step 1, and then step 4 becomes step 2. So that's a general increase across the steps, and then the 1%, 1%, and 2% is on top of that new step
Correct.
matrix? Okay. And so the total cost of this contract over the 3 years in DPW, I'm excluding water and wastewater for the time being, is $130,000 in terms of wages?
That's for the current fiscal year.
That's for the current fiscal year. What is, do we know what it's gonna be in the next 2?
Incrementally, it's 96 and then 91.
So it's 130 this year, 96,
Yep.
91, so
Correct.
it's almost 325,000. So
Yes.
about 100,000, 105, 106,000 a year.
Actually, no, that 91 would be higher because it's got all of the general funds. I think Calvin's calculating that.
I'm
The
not
91
excluding the
was
enterprise
overall.
funds.
I think the total cost for the general fund for the 3 years is about $550,000. Because the first year increase counts for 3 years, the second year increase counts for 2 years, and the third year increase counts for just 1.
Right, so what's the 130? Why is it 130 every year? Why isn't it just on top of that?
The first year is 130.
Yep.
The next year, you have, this year's 130 plus next
Plus,
year's
okay, I
90
see,
plus.
okay, I
So
see.
the total is about
560,000, so, about 187,000 a year. And only 130 that's coming out of free cash. The other 2 fiscal years will be budgeted for, correct? So
Correct.
they won't come out of free cash. Okay. I like also seeing that longevity is gone for new hires.
Buyers.
That's a positive step for me, and I hope we can do that across the board, everywhere. Grandfathering those who already signed the agreement, that earned it, and the ones that are brand new, they know when they sign up that they're not getting it. So overall, I just wanted to say from my chair that the DPW staff makes me look good, makes everybody in this room look good, because 99% of the calls that I get are for these guys and what they have to do on a daily basis. And it doesn't go without saying, the recognition is immense from where I sit, and I make sure the residents who contact me for a pothole to get filled, a tree to get taken down, storm drain to be cleaned, catch basin to be repaired, I didn't do anything. I simply took their request to the DPW, and they responded in a very timely fashion. I've never had an instance where a request formally submitted was not addressed in a timely fashion. So I want to thank every single member of the DPW for the hard work that they do in making us elected officials look good. I make sure to tell the residents and my constituents that, again, don't thank me, thank them. I'm just the messenger. So I think this is well-deserved, and I agree with the fact that we have to stay competitive with cities and towns. Coming from the private sector, I know that there are employees in my company that look at the market, and that's how they make some of their decisions, so this is not foreign to me. So I believe there are concessions the union gave to the city, and there are concessions that we gave to the union, and I believe it's a win-win, and it's geared towards employee retention and employee development. But again, I think the work that they've earned this, and I truly believe that. We have a DPW staff that, in my opinion, deserves probably the top priority in terms of staffing needs, and because there's no shortage of streets, sidewalks, or issues involving our roads and parks. So I wanted to thank all members involved, including the city, for their diligence in this matter, and I will support this new contract moving forward. Any questions? President Kuchmarek.
Ms. Davis and Commissioner Laxo, I'd like to applaud you for putting, an agreement in front of us that has both fiscal responsibility for the city and continues and increases the level of accountability for our employees in the city. But equally important, I think, is putting an agreement in front of us that adequately and better compensates the members of Local 39. They deserve it. They've worked tirelessly for it. They weren't. I think it was important that you said earlier, during financial hardship, this was the bargaining unit that understood that, they took zeros for years, and it's time that we adequately compensate them for a time where they worked with us in good faith. So, they worked tremendously hard. They have as much pride as anyone in this city. They treat the infrastructure and the city's resources like it's their own. And I think that clearly shows, as Councilor DiNatale talked about. And this is something I vote on with pride to better compensate. I know it's never enough. We always want to get paid more, but I'm glad we can do something to better and more justly compensate those who work hard for the city every day. With that, I'd make a motion to.
Could I, before you make a motion?
Councilor Squalia.
Can you just explain what the longevity being removed for new hires is? What that means?
After the contract is signed, there is a schedule of financial or monetary reward that employees receive starting after their completion of their 5th year, and then that scale goes up, based upon that annually. So once the contract is signed, anybody that is hired after that date will no longer receive those longevity payments. The people that are already employees, that are already currently employed, and anybody hired up until the date this is signed, will be eligible for that.
So those are like bonuses, like built-in bonuses?
Yep. Yeah, it's a monetary reward that starts at $350, I think, and it goes up to $2,067
So years of service.
for
bonus,
years of
basically.
service.
So like 2,067 a year after so many years?
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Motion to approve 05518
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 5516.
and 5618.
And 5618. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last item on the agenda, Order 5718, that there being hereby is transferred from within the sum of $30,000 to be transferred from Year 41 Homeowner Rehabilitation Program to Year 43 Down Payment Assistance Pilot Program. Director of Housing, Murphy.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, councilors, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully this is pretty straightforward. We're requesting to transfer $30,000 from an existing account from 2 years ago into a new pilot program to offer down payment assistance to approximately 6 households in this current year. This would be a pilot, so this is our test to try this as an alternative. We did have, or we do have a program called the Buy It, Fix It program, which is intended to be purchase and rehab, but we found that it was very challenging to make that work because of the partnership, just the nature of the program was very challenging. So this is an attempt to offer that purchase incentive in a more straightforward and simple way. As a demonstration, we think that this would be a great opportunity for us to offer an incentive that would help families and individuals that are looking to buy choose Fitchburg instead of other surrounding communities, and gives us an opportunity to speak in a positive light about Fitchburg and buying homes in Fitchburg as we're marketing the program.
Questions? Counselor Fleming.
So if I'm understanding this right,
Yes.
this is going to be a down payment.
Yes.
So the down payment's going to be $4,000 that you're going to be giving them?
Not exactly. It would be
Okay.
a matching down payment, so they would have to come up with whatever the bank requires. We could match that. We could provide assistance with closing costs as well if they didn't need a lot of match in down payment, up to just about $5,000. Not every household would need that much, but it would be up to that amount, less just a little bit of administrative costs for recording a mortgage.
So would they have to have so much money already in the bank in case the property does have to be rehabbed? So are they going to be left with nothing once you've matched their deposit?
Well, we would certainly want to ensure that these were folks that were ready to buy. They would have to take a first-time homebuyer class. They would have to demonstrate that they had some down payment, that they were able to save for some down payment, and that's typical of what the first lender is going to require. So they don't, in this climate, you don't actually have to have 5% like you used to. Some companies are doing 3%, or even, I think Mass Housing has a 0% down product that they're just rolling out. But we would certainly want to make sure that folks are financially sound to own a house, which is part of the process that they go through with the down payment assistance. The funding, since it's CDBG funding, does require that the property meet what's called HQS standards, so that's sort of your basic housing quality standards. So if it didn't meet that, we wouldn't be able to provide the funding there. Sometimes that happens, and then what we do is try to leverage that funding and actually get the seller to make the repairs that are required. But there are also products out there that are offered by Mass Housing and other lenders that have a purchase rehab component to it that's much more simple and straightforward than what we require because of the funding source for our past Buy It, Fix It program.
Counselor Squalia.
So is this a program for first-time home buyers only?
Yes, but the definition is you haven't bought a house in, I believe it's 3 years.
Three years?
I believe
That's a first-time
the-
home buyer?
I believe that's the formal definition, yes.
Okay. And so how do you qualify your buyers?
They would have to earn under 80% of the area median income to be eligible for the funding, and that's dictated by the funding source, it being CDBG.
Okay. Who would inspect the property to ensure that it's up to the standard for that CDBG funding would require?
Well, we would certainly require that they have a home inspection, and we would look at that before we give a preliminary approval, because certain types of homes we know are just not going to qualify. So we'd want to see that home inspection. Then after that happens, it would likely be either myself or our construction manager, Rick Green, doing the inspection.
So people come to you with this, you would advertise this to the community, and people would come to you to apply?
Yes.
Or would you seek out people through another agency? Like, would you be able to combine this with the Reimagine North of Maine down payment grants?
We envisioned it that you could combine it with other opportunities. So in North of Maine, there's a push to try to make that neighborhood of choice and encourage more home ownership there. So that allowing to have that deeper down payment assistance might make that even more of an attractive place to live. So yes, we wouldn't prohibit other incentives being paired with this.
How would you qualify the buyers such that, you know, if they're getting $4,000 from Reimagine North of Maine and $5,000 from you, and they're not, or they have a match component, they have to match. But how do you qualify them so that if they're getting all this money for a down payment, they don't default on their mortgage and foreclose anyway with their 0% or 3% down payment like we've seen 10 years ago.
Right, well, there is a certain amount of underwriting that would be done, and they would have to come to us with a first mortgage, and it would have to be a fixed-rate first mortgage. So we wouldn't entertain mortgages that were subprime.
No adjustable rate.
Right.
Thank you.
Council Boishman.
Are we just gonna be doing single-family homes?
We could entertain a 2. I don't think we want to do, once you get into a 3 and a 4, the codes can be a little bit different, so I think they would be more challenging to make those homes work. So I wouldn't dismiss it outright, but I think we envisioned single and 2 families.
So, under your guidelines, I was in the process of bidding on a house. I haven't bought a house 10 years, so I would qualify under the first-time home ownership plan that you're recommending here.
You already own a house, though, correct?
Huh?
You already own a house?
I already own a home, but I want to buy another piece of property.
You can't currently own a home. So if you
Oh, you
owned a
can't-
home and then sold it, and it's been at least 3 years since you've owned a home, then you would qualify. But you couldn't have an existing home and buy a second.
You can't have two. So an investor cannot get involved in this whatsoever.
If other property is owned, correct, yes.
To qualify.
And it does need to be owner occupied. So an investor couldn't buy this to then rent. And part of the mortgage that we would secure the down payment assistance with would have some language in it that says it has to be owner occupied.
For how long?
5 years.
Oh, it have to be 5 years?
Yep, if they sold within 5 years, it would have to be repaid in a pro rata manner.
Know how I look at this? If you can't afford a down payment, you can't afford a house. That's how I look at it. Am I gonna support this? I don't think I am.
Well, there are a lot of incentives out there. Lenders are offering a lot of their own incentives to encourage homeownership. So this is really intended to set Fitchburg apart and help folks choose Fitchburg instead of other places.
And I understand that, but why does Fitchburg want to get involved in this when Fitchburg is hiring employees and we don't even make them live in the city of Fitchburg and they're making 6 figures? How can we say this? Why are we doing it? I mean, your department alone, 90% of your employees don't live in the city of Fitchburg.
Councilor Boishman, we don't have to get into the personal living
I'm not
situations of
personal.
city. You're talking about people where they live, that work for the city. Not relevant to this discussion. Okay?
Well,
Why are we
my
gonna-
question is, why does the city want to get involved in
Okay,
this
that's
if we're
a-
not even enforcing our
That's
own
a question.
employees?
Because we can't we can't force employees to live in a certain spot. Okay? We can't. This isn't a dictatorship.
We
So-
can make part of the requirements, if you live here, you work here.
I don't know how that's relevant to this pilot program under the federal government grant guidelines.
We're starting this program. This is under the CBG funds,
Right, but
Mr. President. And Mr. President, let me point out to you, we're taking it from year 41 to 43.
Ms. Murphy, can we do this if the feds don't sanction it because it's they've given us this money? I mean, can we just do whatever we want?
No, there are regulations
Right.
that guide this. Yes.
Yeah.
Your question's valid, counsel. I just don't understand why you got to go into the living situations of city employees in this discussion. That's just my opinion. It's irrelevant. So, I mean, you want to go down the list? I don't think that's the appropriate venue here. Counselor Caddy.
I think you answered my question. I was going to ask if there was any type of a lien, so if someone,
5-year mortgage.
that was my question, thank you.
President Kuchmarek.
I would, first, this program has my support. It's a pilot, which means we can try this for a year, see if it's successful, and then reevaluate if this is the best model for us. If we find out after 1 year it isn't, then we have the absolute flexibility. This is We're saying 1 year of funding, $30,000, and at this, we're probably talking half a dozen homes? Six. So, you know, there's going to be, with 6 homes, you get a decent deal of oversight. We're not talking like 50, where the department will be so overburdened with these, you know, requests that they would never have the ability to enforce all of the different stipulations. Talking half a dozen homes here. And it also suggests that with, you know, some of the market rate housing that we have, you know, it actually may be very likely that someone goes from renting and paying more in rent than they would in their mortgage. And if you're sitting there not believing that, I will tell you that when I moved from rental on Main Street in Fitchburg to Blossom Street, my monthly payments actually went down to own a home. And I can tell you that just 3 years ago, it was an absolute struggle for me to get to that 5% threshold. It was actually a struggle for me to get to the 3% threshold. So it isn't hard for me to put myself in the shoes of residents across the city who want to own a home and say, that's difficult to get to. So I think this allows for us to be able to vet the right type of homeowners who are going to be able to, you know, buy and achieve home ownership particularly in neighborhoods that we're targeting for home ownership that would benefit from owner-occupied housing, and figure out, you know, how can we help residents move forward and be able to invest in property and get a financial start, and be financially responsible, coupled with how do we more responsibly approach our neighborhoods and achieve owner-occupied housing, which we're always talking about is a detriment across our communities that we don't have enough of. So I think this program accomplishes both. I want to applaud Ms. Murphy for looking at a pilot program, changing our methodology. I think this is smart, and I look forward to seeing the results. With that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve 05718.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 5718. Speaking on that motion, I just wanted to say that the federal government sanctioning this use of funds for this kind of purpose. And if we want to use the argument that, well, if people can't afford the down payment, they shouldn't own a home, this was initially earmarked for rehabilitation of a home. So that you could use the same logic and say, if someone can't afford to fix their house, they can't fix the house then. This is federal CDBG money given to this city with specific and strict regulations tied to it. So I've heard my 10 years on the council about CDBG funding. I don't like that it goes to this. I don't like the stipulations for this. Contact your congressman. I mean, that's all I can say to you. When we get money from the state of the feds, tied to that are specific guidelines on how that money can be used. And once we accept the money, they own us. So we've already accepted this money. We're putting it to a different use. To me, I see it as the same kind of use, whether we give money, allocate money to people who need rehabilitation in their existing homes or to own a home. You can use that logic in either case. If you can't afford it, then we shouldn't be doing it. Well, unfortunately, the feds give us this money to do just that. So if you've got issues with this, I say take it up with your federal legislation delegation. I have a motion made and seconded to approve 5718. Speaking on the motion, Councilor Zarella.
I just wanted to second Councilor President Kushmerik's remarks. I think that, as I've said before, I like an incremental approach to new ideas. I think it's excellent that we are, on the level of a city budget and these grants that we're working with, moving $30,000 from one place to another is not the kind of irrevocable move where if this should happen to go south, we're not forfeiting any big loss to the city. It's not that we could have fixed 2 miles of road with this or anything like that. We just go back to the drawing board and say, okay, didn't work, try again. But I think it will work. I do like the idea of helping people out who might very well have the revenue stream to keep up a steady mortgage, but not necessarily the additional revenue stream to be socking away money to meet that initial down payment. I've been in an analogous circumstance about 5-8 years ago, and I had assistance with the down payment. I probably could not have purchased my house otherwise. But I kept up with the payments. I unloaded my house when I moved, and now I'm in another one that I'm keeping up with all the payments on. So I think this is a good program. I think it will help help people who can be responsible homeowners but just need a bit of a boost. And I'm hoping that this time next year we come back and say, this has been a huge success, let's move more money into it.
Motion made and seconded to approve 5718. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Oh, one in opposition, Counselor Boishman. Passes 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.